In this video, I want to go over a very hard truth when it comes to running, a difficult truth to come to terms with sometimes, especially for me. I've been running for 10 years, very consistently over the last 4 years, and I've done a couple different things, like running 10 marathons in 10 days. I set a course record for a 50-mile race and a 100-mile race. I've started to have some success when it comes to running, and that success or consistency has been tanking over the last years, over the last year. And I've been trying to overcome this, and this has been making me think about very difficult truth for some people, especially depending on the situation and who's going through it. But for me, a really hard truth to come to terms with sometimes, and it's definitely been the case right now, is the hard truth about running is if you're not where you want to be, it's your own damn fault. And it's hard to come to terms with, at least for me, because it's easy to make excuses, especially when you've been doing so well. Life has these dips and these highs, right? And so when you've been on these highs and you dip, sometimes it feels like, maybe it's someone else's fault or there's something that's outside your control. For example, I started to hit this really intense fatigue after a lot of my running events, and I had to take like a couple of months off of running. And now that I've been getting back into running, I have to revamp and put in the effort I was putting in beforehand. And so that fatigue felt like it was it wasn't my fault, or it just came out of nowhere. But in all reality, I had ran 933 days in a row, hadn't taken a single day off. I had ran a 100-miler, then did 550Ks in 5 days, and then did a 50-miler within the span of 3 months. And, had just gotten off hard marathon training before the 100-miler. And, a lesson I walked away from is I put on too much too fast, and or I just didn't give myself the proper, rest, right? And so even though I want to say that fatigue hit me out of nowhere, that was my fault for putting in more and pushing through a lot of things. And I'm all about pushing through and finding out what you're made of. But when it comes to staying healthy and having regular energy levels, because running isn't the only thing in my life, right? I need energy to get through everything else in my day and my weeks. It was my own fault for not giving myself a break. And now that I'm not where I want to be now as I've recovered, I just haven't been putting in as much training as I used to. And I've been pointing fingers and saying I've been traveling, or I'm not feeling well, or I'm sick. But at the end of the day, I got to take responsibility and ownership for that. And I think this is something that is difficult for a lot of people. When you get injured, it's easy to say, well, it just happened. I'm not built for running, or it's not like I wanted to get injured. But at the end of the day, there is probably something you could have done to prevent that injury, or there are things you can do now to get through that injury faster, and you're not doing them. It's easy to say, it's not like I wanted to get injured, it's not my fault. But if you weren't stretching or doing strength training, because those things will help you stay healthy and avoid injuries, not fully mitigate them, but it'll definitely help. If your legs are strong, if your tendons are strong, if you have mobility, if you're not too tight so your muscles and knots aren't pulling on all these things, I think you could avoid some of the injuries you're running into. I know I've experienced this myself of not stretching enough and then having these issues, right? So at the end of the day, even if you didn't intentionally force something on you, it's your own fault. And there's things you can be doing or maybe shouldn't be doing, like maybe you shouldn't eat that shitty food, right? This is one of those hard truths about running is you are where you're at because of yourself. It's your fault when it's bad, and it's also your fault when it's good. When you've achieved a PR, that was you who put in the work. That wasn't anyone else. Maybe you had people who supported you, or maybe you had running groups to help motivate you. But at the end of the day, you're the one who ran that PR at that race and put in that training, right? And so even though this can seem like a negative, it's also a great truth to come to terms with of you get to own your successes and say, that was me. I own this. It's not cocky to be like, hey, I put in this work and ran a sub 3-hour marathon. You did it, right? And I think cockiness is confused with confidence sometimes, and you can confidently promote yourself if you have achieved something, right? And if people shut you down for this amazing achievement, why would you want to associate with them anyways? So the hard truth, but also a great rewarding one, is it's your own damn fault. You're where you're at because of what you've done. So if you're in a bad place, that's your fault. And if you're in a good place, that is also your fault. And so this is something I'm working through right now and trying to remind myself of so I can get back into it and let myself know it's not that I just sucked and did all these bad things and I can't come out of it, because it is my own damn fault when I come out the other side. I hope this was helpful for you. If you like running content, mindset stuff, tips and tricks, training, opinions, and things like that, I post regular content. I'm on a mission to help people avoid their injuries and work through them and get fitter and faster and just overall love the sport of running more. It's definitely changed my life, and I'm sure it's changed yours to some degree as well. So if you like that stuff, hit that subscribe button. If not, no worries. I hope this was valuable for you either way. I appreciate your time. I know time is valuable, so spending it here is, I don't neglect that. I do honor that. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video sometime soon. Peace!